Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a long time since I put anything out, but I'm back. Alright, a few weeks ago I asked on my Instagram and my Facebook to reach out with any disc golf questions and I would do my best to answer them. I picked out 15 of the best ones, and I think that these right here are probably the 15 best questions as far as insight on myself as a disc golfer and some of the things I go through at tournaments and decisions I make and just things of that nature. So, let's get into them. Very first question from Phil Harmon is, who got you into playing disc golf? That would be a very good buddy of mine, Robert Everett. I went to college with him, was in the fraternity in college with him, and he got me playing in the fall of 2014. It was a great thing that I picked up, and I put it down for a couple years, picked it back up in 2017, and I've never looked back. Next question comes from a lifelong friend and fellow firefighter of mine, Davey Uten, asked, what got you into the sport and why did you choose to keep playing? Kind of a piggyback question off of the first one. Like I said, Rob got me into the sport, and it was originally just a thing to kind of get out and do and hang out with a bunch of buddies. But I kept playing because after I left high school, I left all my competitive sports behind. Going through college, going through EMT and paramedic training along with a full class load, I never had time to do anything else as far as dedicating time to intramural sports or collegiate level, athletics, things like that. So I, took it up there, and then in 2017 I started playing competitively. I've never looked back. It's filled that void that I had for competitive sports, and I've loved every minute of it. This one comes from my girlfriend, Andrea, and it's, what is your favorite course? I have a soft spot for Armco Blue in Ashland, Kentucky. It's where I first picked up the sport, but I'd say my favorite course is actually the three courses on Wild Horse Golf Complex in Las Vegas, Nevada. And those courses set up perfectly for my game, and it's just, they always will be my favorites. Next question from Zach Har. When do you think you will break the 925 mark? Well, that answer changed a little after this last ratings update. I had a very poor performance at the Barbersville Open, and it kind of set me back behind and actually took me down a few ratings points. But hopefully I want to get there by like next January, next February. This next question comes from Thaddeus Stambaugh. How do you prepare for a tournament at a course you've never played before? It's a very interesting one, and I use two big things. I use UDisc to kind of look at the map and get the layout, and also look at other scores on the course and kind of see what the average is. And Disc Golf Course Review is the best one that I've found, because I can get on there and be able to look at pictures of the course and kind of take and really pick out like lines that I might want to throw, look at the layouts of each hole, things like that. About a week before I play a tournament or something like that, I typically will set with all the pictures from DGCR and a notepad and make notes. Very, very studious notes the entire time. And if I get the chance to show up to the tournament early, I'll try to play around through if I can get there the day prior. But if I can't, I at least try to show up to the tournament early enough to where I can walk through the course to see it firsthand. Next question comes from Chris Plona. KP asked, who are your favorite MPO and FPO players? My favorite MPO player is easily Paul McBeth. And it's basically because he is the most prepared for anything as far as tournaments go. He puts in the work that nobody else is willing to do. Whenever any other player would be relaxing or drinking a beer or watching TV, he is training, and he never stops. So there's a reason he's the most dominant player in probably and arguably the most competitive professional disc golf field ever, is this generation, with people like Ricky and Eagle and Simon and Sexton, Coling, all of these big name people and people coming up now like Kevin Jones. There's a reason he's still the most dominant, is because he puts in the work that nobody else is willing to. KP, as far as the second part of the question on the FPO side, it's Rebecca Cox. I've always kind of rooted for her because she was, the hometown girl. She was, before she moved, she was from Cincinnati, just right up the road from me. And, I always liked seeing the local people do good. The same on the MPO side right now with Corey Ellis. But she is easily the most down-to-earth and relatable pro I've ever met as far as any sport goes. And she's just downright an awesome human being. And I'm very lucky to consider her a friend. Austin Warren asks, what is the best advice you could give to a new player? That would be start with putters. Don't make the mistake that a lot of people do and immediately grab a high-speed driver and try to throw far with it. You'll very easily get frustrated, and it's just not going to be a good time for you. You might quit prematurely, of things like that. Start with a putter. Get good at that and slowly work your way up. As far as any technical details, I would say learn how to throw forehand, especially if you don't have a baseball background. Forehand is the most useful, tool in your arsenal, because no matter what course you're on, you're always going to find yourself in need to be able to throw a forehand shot. Sherry Vyers asks, at what age should you start playing? That's a very easy one. As soon as you can hold a disc. Start them young. As soon as you can hold them, as soon as you can hold the Frisbee, start throwing it. And that is very evident with the people who have been playing since they could, hold a disc. They're incredibly good. So the sooner you start, the more experience you're going to have quicker. Bill Rawlinson asks, what part of your mental game do you feel needs the most work, and how do you plan to approach it? My consistency. I have always struggled with putting a full round together. So how I plan to approach it is definitely fixing my focus and making sure I'm focusing from the very first tee off to the very last putt, and being able to start putting a complete round together, and then once I'm doing that consistently, being able to put multiple rounds together for an entire tournament. Austin Scott asked, what made you choose the discs that are in your bag? I spent a lot of money when I first started this. I bought almost every Frisbee I could get my hands on, and at one point in time I had close to 1,000 discs. So it's basically, in layman's terms, trial and error. I tried about everything I could get my hands on until I found what was comfortable and what worked for me, and after that it hasn't really changed too much. The staple molds in my bag have pretty well stayed the same. Some odd and ends jump in and fall out here and there, but the Destroyer, the Firebird, the Rock, the Aviar, and the Valkyrie, those have all stayed right there together. And the moment I get comfortable with it and know that it does what I need it to do, they stay in the bag, and they're very hard pressed to leave. My first 1,000 rated question, and I think the only one I got, from Corey Ellis. If you had to choose only one disc to use for the rest of your life, what would it be? This Rock 3. This Color Glow Rock 3, I can do anything with it. I can throw it on hyzer and hyzer. I can drive, approach, and putt with it. I can throw it forehand and backhand. It is all around the most useful disc in my bag. So if I had to only pick one, I'd pick the Rock. Keith Atkins asks, push or spin putt, which do you use? I use a hybrid of the two. Mine just has a little more spin than push on it, but it's something I developed myself after figuring out that a straight push putt or a straight spin putt isn't the best for me. So I kind of developed my own putting stroke. So it's been very helpful to be able to be confident with my putting. It's the most important aspect of the game. So I developed something that worked for me, and it has yet to let me down. Andrea again asks, how do you warm up? This one I'll go into a little bit of detail on. For a casual round, I will warm up basically by some light stretches, some practice putts, and then warm up as I play through the round. You know, if I'm just out playing casually with friends, I'm not worried about being very competitive from the very beginning to the very end, so I can start off slow and kind of build my way up to it. Now, in a tournament setting, I like to get there early. I like to do some light stretches and then practice putt. When I practice putt for the first time, it's basically just to get the arms start to get loose and the shoulder and kind of basically the upper body, getting those muscles and joints moving. Then I will typically play catch. I'll probably grab my Sonic out of my bag and I'll play catch. Again, just start getting a little more warmed up and loose and things like that. And then after that, if I have the place to do it and I have the time, I will start throwing warm-up drives. And I'll start with throwing putters, you know, for 100-foot up shots, 150-foot up shots, and then like 200 and 250-foot putter drives. And then I'll start getting my drivers out and really start stretching out. If I can't do that, if either I don't have time or I don't have the appropriate place to warm up like that, typically I will just continue to play catch, but I'll increase that distance a little bit, start warming up a little more. Then after that, I will actually practice putt. That way I can go ahead and see my putting stroke and get a feel for it to see if I need to adjust anything before the round. That way I'm not trying to adjust on the fly on the course. As well as getting a feel for the baskets to see where they're catching the best, what style of putt I should use, whether I should be a little more forceful or if I need to kind of like ginger it in there a little bit more. That way I'm not learning that on the course and having to adjust on the fly. And then for about the last 5 minutes before tee off, I will put everything back in my bag and sit there and start getting my headspace the way I want it. At that point, I start getting my focus truly down and my, you know, I'll start getting really focused. I'll get my head where I want it. That way, as soon as it's time to tee off, I'm ready and I'm not still trying to find my game. I'm already in the zone. So, Phil Harmon asked, what disc will never leave your bag? I had a couple different answers for this. It all depended on the way I wanted to interpret the question. And the way I interpret the question is specifically which disc. In which case, this. This is my 150 class XG or Extra Gummy Champion Valkyrie. This is my first disc. It was a gift to me from Rob, who taught me how to play. And even though I don't really pull it out and actually use it on the course anymore, as it is the most understable disc that I own, it's always stayed in my bag, and it will never leave. Even just for sentimental reasons, that disc will always be there. More or less just kind of to remind me where I'm coming from. And then the last one, who is your biggest fan? And it's kind of a rhetorical question. It's you, Mom. My mom asked me this question, and I'm lucky to say I've had the best support network between her and my girlfriend for anything, and even going so far back as to like in school and sports, she was always the one who screamed the loudest in the stands. She was always the one that cheered the hardest, and she was always the one that picked me up every time I fell. Every time I failed at what I was wanting to do, she always talked me into giving it another shot. So for that, Mom, I thank you more than anything I could even try to explain. So yeah, my mom is my biggest fan, and I think she always will be. So that is all 15 questions. I tried to make this a shorter video. I didn't go too into detail with a lot of them. Be on the lookout for more content. If you didn't see your question in there were a handful I didn't pick, but those were mainly the ones that I think deserve their own video. So if you didn't see yours in there, be patient, keep an eye out, and you will probably see it in its own video highlighted specifically for that question. So there are more videos coming. I am working on getting some more footage, flight footage of the disc in my bag and how they fly. That way I can add those onto my next In the Bag. That way it's not just me explaining what they do. You'll be able to see how every disc in my bag flies as I'm telling you about them. So I think it's pretty well going to wrap this one up. Everyone stay safe out there, and until next time, I'll see you all around.